Oh, wait. Calling it to order. For you guys that were not able to be at the tours last week, we toured we toured the firehouse, and while at the firehouse, got a presentation from both the fire chief and Chief Martin with the rescue squad. So I gave you guys the pamphlets that Chief Martin gave out, hard copy of the PowerPoint. And the chief, do you have, if these gentlemen wanted to see the PowerPoint, any chance you could email it to them?
Yep, Ben has seen it.
Okay.
Sure, that'd be helpful.
So I'll get your email before.
Sure.
My takeaway from the whole thing was it seemed like equipment wise, the two chiefs seemed to have it well in hand with keeping the equipment functioning, adequate, updating as necessary. The two big hindrances that they both are running into is the buildings that they're in. Like we were in there and a call went out, and you could smell the exhaust coming right into the meeting room at the firehouse. And definitely not built for their needs. I can only imagine how frustrating it is every time you want to have official training, having to go to another location. Because technically, according to safety regulations, they can't hold any meetings in either of their buildings because there's no ventilation system or exhaust capture system, or even airtight doors between the bays and where the meeting rooms are at. But fortunately, that is getting addressed with the new building. And then the other issue is just manpower or person power, sorry. Getting people that are interested to volunteer. Whether it's for the fire side or the EMS side. Chief Martin, you had 10 people on your roster?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's correct.
Okay, and you said 6 or 8 of those are active?
8 of those are all active people. Yeah.
Okay. And then Chief, you said you had 15,
24,
24?
24 members with 10-ish.
10-ish. So really not a whole lot, and these are all volunteers responding from home, not doing anything.
Paid call. So
Paid on-
there is
paid
pay,
per
so
call.
It's not a true.
So it's not, so they do get supplemented, I'll put it that way.
They'll get insured when they're on call, right?
We get, yeah,
That's the more important part.
Yeah.
no, fully insured.
Yeah.
Workman's comp.
Right, that's what I meant.
So, but I knew like the rescue squad was 6 A to 6 P, Monday to Friday. They are covered, where we are covered by the city of Lebanon. And they take care of nights and weekends. I got more to say, but you got Boyd, so I don't wanna take up his time or risk keep losing a connection.
Share his presentation now.
I don't know. It's all you, Roy. Chief.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yep. Yes, sir.
Great. Sorry about that. I'm not always great with technology too. So, all right. So I'll just go through this, and if anybody's got any questions during it, I'm perfectly happy to pause and answer those, or I can go all the way through and then answer questions, whichever the committee would like to do.
I think you go ahead and like I said, if you got limited connection or whatnot, I don't wanna risk losing you halfway through. So go ahead and do your presentation and we'll ask at the end. Okay,
great. All right, so everybody should be able to get a copy of this after. So if you have, you can take a closer look at it and this and that. So the first page there is just our mission and our vision statement. It's what we follow, what kind of our creed of the PD, and what we strive for in our everyday duties. You can go to this next page. All right, so our department is 7 full-time officers, 1 full-time public administrative coordinator. Was the executive assistant to the chief. When Paula retired, we changed that to the public safety administrative coordinator. That's Emily's position. She actually is kind of jack of all trades. She works with the ambulance, the fire department, and the police department, both in statistics and scheduling and anything that right now, a lot of it is the PD, and more of it is coming on for fire department and ambulance as they realize what you can do to help out and stuff like that. And it's going to be even more when we move into the new building. We're all in one location. It'll make it that much more effective. We currently have one part-time officer. He's been with us since I took over as chief, a little over 6 years ago. And one police assistant. We just filled that position again. That person starts August 5th. That's the person that does the crossing for the school, helps us with cruiser maintenance, moving vehicles around, and odds and ends stuff, throughout the PD stuff, taking evidence to the lab when able to, stuff like that. We're comprised of basically two divisions, patrol division and administrative division. The patrol division being a majority of the PD, and administrative being myself and Lieutenant Fry, our positions with the additional duties other than patrol, but also the administrative side of that. Go ahead, next slide, please. Everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right, so that slide lists a bunch of the, not everything, but a bunch of what we do within the patrol division. Traffic stops, motor vehicle complaints, motor vehicle accidents, investigations, everything from violation level all the way up to felony level, welfare checks, special operations unit. We belong to the regional special operations team. It comprised of about, last I knew, it was 18 towns. We're one of the 18 towns. And they assist us with like high risk warrants, stuff like that. We have the ability to have somebody as a member of that team, since we're a member department, which is actually, I did it for 6 years. We've had several officers do it throughout the time, through the time that we've been involved. It's great training and experience that they get as well. And then really the last one is any other services that are needed, right? We're an all service department. We do what the citizens of Enfield need us to do within the realm of what we can do as a police department. Next slide, please. That's just our org chart, just in case anybody was kind of curious on how it went. I'm not gonna really spend a whole lot of time on that. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Next slide, please. All right, so that's our staffing. Again, I went over our staffing. I thought it'd be kind of nice to give everybody a little bit of a comparison about where we are compared to, a bunch of the towns around us. We're 7 full-time. We have one guy in the academy right now, and we have 6 full-time certified people out on the road. When he graduates the academy in November, it'll be probably a couple weeks after that, he'll be out on the road as well, on his own. He already did most of his FTO prior to going to the academy, and then having the one part-timer and one full-time administrative staff. But there's kind of an overview of how it looks in our area anyway, within PDs. Statistically, if you follow the FBI statistics, we should probably be we should be at 9.5 officers. I'm not asking for more officers right now. I'm just letting you know that's what, if you follow the FBI and National Crime Institute, like every officer per so many residents, they say we should be at 9.5. We're at 7. We're at a good number right now. I'm not asking for more. I think we're at, we cover all our duties and all the stuff that we want to. We do not want to be a town that starts going to, Lebanon doesn't do motor vehicle unlocks anymore. They don't do VIN checks and stuff like that. I'm a firm believer, and those are stuff that, you pay taxes. Those are the kind of services we should provide. We can. And so, we can still do that with the number we're at now. And I don't, for the foreseeable future, I don't see it changing, as of right now. So, all right, next slide, please. Summary of our activity. again, that's just so that in there is, and I'll be happy to answer questions about it. But a lot of people, what I have found, and I'm not saying it's actually a bad thing, is a lot of people don't know what goes on in Enfield. We're, for the last 4 years, we've made it in the top 10 safest communities in the state to live in. The last 2 years we've been in the top 5. And so a lot of people have kind of a misunderstanding of what goes on in Enfield. But those are just some of the statistics of what we deal with on a yearly basis within Enfield. So, there is heroin in Enfield. There is methamphetamines in Enfield. There are drug dealers in Enfield. There are, violent crimes in Enfield. And we do investigate and deal with them on a regular basis. So, next slide, please. All right. So, some of the things that do affect our annual statistics each year are personnel. Anybody who's been kind of following law enforcement, as you've seen in the volunteer side of stuff, for the fire and ambulance, right? It's hard to recruit and retain police officers right now. Quite frankly, to speak, open about it, it's become a who can pay the most situation out there. Who can give the biggest sign-on bonus and this and that. I'm hoping we're coming to the end of that. We've been up and down a little bit over the last 4 or 5 years. We just went a little over a year, being almost 2 understaffed for the whole year. But right now we're back to full staff, and 4 of our 6 are under contract for the next at least the next 2 years. Most of them 3. So, and that's due to a program that me and Ed and put together for a recruiting and retention bonus program. And then the other part is we changed about a year and a half ago. We changed computer systems over from IMC to CSI, and it's a much different tracking system. So it tracks numbers, and it's more accurate. What we were seeing with some of our old statistics is that it was an old DOS system that sometimes repeated some of the numbers, or wasn't so much repeated some of the numbers. A lot of investigations take multiple days, weeks, or even months. And when you pull what's called a call for service for a follow-up, it would create a whole other activity. And so it was the new system's more accurate. So that's a little bit of the transitional change in numbers there too. Yeah.
Chief, if I can interrupt you for 1 second, is that why the calls for service in 21 and 22 were about 40% higher than 23?
That's one small factor. I would say the largest factor is the that we were down. We were down 2 officers. When I looked at everything, statistically, a majority of those calls that we were down were actually motor vehicle stops. And when we have 2 less officers, we still, if you look at the statistics, we had 2 less officers, but we still had the same amount of violent crime. We still had the same amount of drugs, and we still had the same amount of reported domestics and stuff that had to be investigated. So we had 2 less officers to investigate all those things, which pulled them off the road, which means we stopped, a significantly less amount of motor vehicle stops, and also combine that with the change in the system that did away with some of the duplicate calls. That's really the major reason for the call drop in that 1 year.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep. All right, we can go to the next slide, please. All right, so here's our 3 things that our PD focuses on the most, right? Traffic safety, crime prevention, and community relations. The picture is Lieutenant Fry, and we participate in the Memorial Day Parade each year, and that's one of the veterans that catches a ride because getting a little long in the tooth to walk the whole parade now, but he still loves to go every year. So we can go to the next slide. That's a breakdown in, again, a lot of people don't quite have an understanding of what we investigate for crimes in Enfield. Some people think that, you know, that it's a great, I love this community. It's a great community. Some people think that all we end up chasing is hit and runs and minor things. And that'll show you right there. That's a breakdown of the actual stuff that we do end up spending a majority of our time doing investigations on. There are some outliers there that are one or two ops, but that's a majority of what we cover for investigations and arrests in a year. So we can go to the next slide. All right, so factors that we're always looking for involved with our motor vehicle crashes are speed, impaired driving, distracted driving, and then the other, people skidding off the road. You know, we always call it the first snowstorm of the year. We call it the Summer Tire Club because and that's typically in November or so, and everybody lives in New England. They still know we're going to have winter, but everybody tries to wait as long as they can to change over to those winter tires. And so, those, but believe it or not, they're about 25% of our accidents are we can relate them to impaired driving, distracted driving, or speed. And so those are our major targets on. Those are where we can have the biggest influence on crashes, right? I can't control, everybody who's lived in New England for a while has always been in that situation where the road was so bad, there was nothing you could do. It's just horrible traveling conditions. Most of those we really can't, other than education and warning people, stuff like that. But the first three we can make an impact on, and that's where we think is our impact for motor vehicle crashes. You can go to the next slide. That's a statistic I give out just because I love to be transparent, and that's our warnings versus, I believe if I can read that on my little phone, I believe that's our warnings versus citations. Yeah. So that's our warnings versus citations. We write, and I can't see the number from here, but we write several hundred tickets, but we stop several thousand people. So, and that's that's also not representative of every person we stop for speed, for registration or inspection. We write them a ticket, but we give them a grace period to get it done, because what's the ultimate factor in the reason for that law, right? Make sure the vehicles are registered and make sure that they're safe to drive on. If I stop you for an uninspected and I give you a ticket, but I tell you you got 7 days to get it inspected, and I'll tear the ticket up, I've accomplished what the law meant, right? Your vehicle passed inspection, it's safe to drive. So those count as warnings, but there are those instances as well. Or also youth drivers, we will let them do the driver education program where they go to crash school and stuff like that, so they don't lose their license. And those change to warnings as well. So, all right, we can go to the next slide. That's again, just a little more information for the committee. Just kind of breaks it down when and where our actions happen. We do have the ability, and we do track like where our problem places and what times, and that helps us, monitor or change our patrol shifts or our coverage of trying to prevent prevent crashes and or educate people with stops and slowing people down or not using their phones and stuff like that. So, next slide. All right, crime prevention. So we can go to the next one. Sure, next. Okay. That's fine. All right, so our what we've identified through Enfield is our major safety threats, right, to the public are sexual assaults and physical assaults, property crime, and drugs. Those are the three biggest broad categories of what we focus on for our prevention and education and stuff. So you can go to the next slide. Okay. So community in the future, what I couldn't get done before I left for vacation is I was going to show you the slides that compare Enfield to the neighboring communities. But Ed had said the next step anyway was showing the comparative stuff. So I'll have all that for you when we start into that. And community relations. So when I took over as chief, one of my biggest thing is community policing. I believe that if the first time a kid or a parent meets a police officer, it's because we're there at their house for a domestic, or we're there at their house for that 1% day, right? That worst day, whether they made a mistake and they did something they shouldn't have, or they're a victim of something, then we're not doing it right. They should know who we are. They should trust who we are, or at least know somebody that knows us and trusts us. And so we really, over the last 6 years, ramped up our community relations and get involved in the community and stuff. And to the fact, I'm very proud to say that about 2 years ago, I went to a domestic, and when I walked in, there was a little girl, about 7 years old, and she looked at me and she said, "No, I know everything's okay because my friend Roy's here now. Not the police officer, not Chief Holland. Roy's here now. And that tells me that what we're doing is working. The kids recognize us, the parents recognize us, and the community sees us not just as police officers, but other members of the community and other members and other people that they can trust that we're going to do the best job that we can do." And so there's just kind of a little bit of an updated list. I think the next 2 or 3 slides show just some of the stuff that we do. So you can go to the next. Yep, and you can go to the next one. Yep, and then I think that's the last one. Can you go? All right. Any questions? Or what do you have for questions? Not any questions. What do you have for questions?
Hey, Chief, I got a question. It's Dan Regan. So you mentioned that right now, you're at 7.5 officers and 9 is the number that, the FBI would suggest. But you're good. So that's great. But what would you see over the next couple of years that would make you say, yeah, we need to go to 8 or 9 or 10? What metrics do you follow?
I wouldn't per se I have a metrics. What I would say is that when we're so busy that we can't provide services to our, that we're getting behind right in our services to the community, right? And I'm not talking so at multiple levels, right? Investigations, where I'm seeing that officers can't do patrol functions because they're always doing investigations. That would indicate to me that, okay, my first look at that would be, do I need to pull somebody off the road back to detectives full time, which we've done in the past. And if that, I guess the metric I'd look at after that is that impacting patrol function as well? But also, are we so busy that we can't we got to stop providing certain services to members of the town, such as, like I said, motor vehicle unlocks, VIN verifications, welfare checks, stuff like, or, certain level of welfare checks, stuff like that. Those would be, my first indicators I'm always looking at it. I'm always looking at our statistics. I'm always looking at time management, right? Are the officers, how much time are they spending on patrols versus how much are they spending on investigation? How much are they spending in moving patrol versus stationary patrol? How much are they spending on community relations and stuff like that? So we're constantly always looking at that stuff. And I guess I would say that if I saw that as a department, it was reaching, we were starting to reach that capacity where it was leaning one way or the other, I would start that look at, okay, we need to add an 8th full-timer.
Got it. Thank you.
Last year in 23, when we're down 2 officers, did you get to a point, because I know in public safety, I'll say, all 3 branches, when it rains, it pours. You'll have days when you have, days or weeks when there seems like nothing going on. then all of a sudden you have a weekend or a week where everything's going on. Did you have any times where you needed to request assistance from other towns?
So we were several times, we were at the point when we were down to 5 officers. I was praying that nobody got sick. Yeah. So when we're at 7, when we're at 7 full-time officers, done the academy on the road, we're 24 hours a day. When anytime we're less than 7, we cannot be 24 hours. So for the last year and a half, just about, we've been on what's called an on-call shift. So, like, somewhere around 2 o'clock in the morning or so, 1 or 2 in the morning, an officer goes on call for about 4 or 5 hours till the next officer comes on at 6 a.m. And so, and that, quite frankly, if you asked me, do we have the call volume between 2 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning to sustain a full-time officer all the time? 3 days a week? Probably not. But what we found from the Enfield residents, and when we talk about it and we look about it, is we go to all the med calls and stuff like that. And, our average response time when on duty is 3 to 8 minutes. Closer to 3, but sometimes 8. If you're on the, Enfield Canaan Town line and you get a call over at, Methodist Hill, it's going to take you 8 minutes or so to get there, right? But, at 2 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning, when a loved one has a major emergency, the response time of 3 to 8 minutes is a lot better than the response time of 18 to 22. And so, from just talking with the residents and back in 2002, when they added the 7th full-timer, it was very clear that for the cost of having the 7th full-timer, the 24 hours was worth it to the residents. If that, am I confusing
Yeah.
I kind of went off on a little bit of a tangent there, but when we were down to 5, it's kind of a hard question to answer because we have mutual aid with Lebanon and Canaan, right? And so and it's written into the law in the state of New Hampshire, so we don't have mutual aid agreements. It's within the law. So on any given day, we could get called to Lebanon and help them out with a burglary, right, or armed robbery, or an armed suspect, and same with Canaan, or like just on the 4th of July. 3rd of July, right? Corporal Smith was tied up with a DWI arrest and somebody was lighting fireworks off of the bridge over on Shaker Hill. Canaan came over to help us deal with that, right? So that's an ongoing thing. That's even if Lebanon has 40 officers, but they still call us probably once a month to help back them up on something on the Enfield side of town, right? Because they don't have the officers available. So that's always an ongoing thing. I think that'll be there. But when we were down to 5, that was more of if somebody got hurt or somebody got sick and was going to be out for a while. It was, trying to figure out how we were going to cover the town, and give the residents the coverage that they, expect.
Gotcha.
Chief, how frequently is an officer on their own, just working by themselves?
Probably, well, some days it's like maybe 3 or 4 hours. Other days it can be 12 hours. So we have single coverage. We try to have, double coverage, or crossover, what we call crossover shifts, so, the patrol officers work 10-hour shifts. They work 4 10s. So we try to scatter them so that they have kind of crossover shifts. And, but it's always like the last maybe couple hours of the shift, or on days on our, I guess you'd say, lesser activity days, they might have a whole 10 hours that they're the only one on.
Do all the officers in your department live in town, or are they able to live? Do they just have a distance that they need to live in, or?
Neither. So they do not have to live in town. Let me see. So 3/4 of my department lives in town. One lives just outside of town, and one lives like about an 18-minute drive. But it's not a requirement. It used to be a requirement, and then or then we used to have that you had to live within so many miles. The problem is with recruiting now that when you start adding that, you limit your pool of applicants.
Yeah.
So we don't have anybody that lives more than an 18-minute drive from the PD. But if let's say we had an opening, and I had an applicant that applied from like say Concord, and they were willing to commute and cover their shifts and stuff like that. I don't know that I would say no, to be honest with you. They wouldn't get a take-home car. That's part of our take-home car policy is you got to live within town or literally right outside of town. But as far as not keeping them as an officer, I don't think we would limit ourselves to hiring somebody that lived outside of a certain range as long as they were willing to do the commute.
So those that live farther away, like the one that's 18 minutes away, and if you did hire someone that was even further, how would they do if they were doing the on-call period? Would they just stay at the station?
Correct. They'd stay at the station.
Okay.
Yep. So when you come on, when we're full staff, we don't have the on-call, but when we're not, if you live, the understanding that we have, the understanding that's part of their contract and part of the agreement is that if you live outside of a 10-minute response time from your house, right? Because obviously it takes 5 to 8 minutes to get dressed and this and that. Then you either have to stay with somebody in town or you can stay at the station. But you're responsible for covering your on-call shifts.
Makes sense.
Hey, Chief, from an equipment point of view, any big needs coming up in the next 3 to 5 years, or is it just the usual turnover of cruisers, that sort of thing?
Yeah, no, Enfield takes care of Enfield PD amazing. We have no wants, no needs for equipment. There's always wants. I could use a really cool drone to find people, in the woods when somebody's lost. But no, as far as that, last year the CIP adopted our proposal to go to a take-home cruiser system. So we got one more car to add for that, but it's going to save a huge amount of money and keep the cars a lot longer. And so I can honestly say that there isn't anything that we've needed that I've asked for and been told no. We sometimes use some creative, grant writing and stuff like that to help out. But our officers are equipped with what they need to do the best job they can in Enfield.
Okay. And do you have like a 7-year strategic plan that rolls up to a town-wide strategic plan?
I have yes, yep. Well, I think it's 6 years. The 6-year strategic plan that we work on. As and each year we kind of add stuff and add stuff, see what didn't work, didn't work. And we started that in I think 2018, and I think it kind of towards the end of COVID it kind of died on the vine, I guess you'd say. But Ed started to bring it back this year, so all the department heads had kind of revitalized that this year and been working on it.
Okay. Chief, do you have a boat, and are you guys doing law enforcement on the water, or are you leaving that to Marine Patrol?
We do not have a boat. We leave that to Marine Patrol. When we work with Marine Patrol, like when at least a couple times each summer, we go out with Marine Patrol just as a extra enforcement, like they see a familiar face, Enfield PD, this and that. But typically, Marine Patrol handles the stuff on the lakes.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep.
Hey, Chief, could you talk a little bit more about the drugs? I was horrified to hear you say that there's heroin in this town. To what extent would you say there's a drug problem? Is it widespread? Is it getting worse? And how does it look today versus 5 years ago?
think every town has it.
It's-
Yeah.
We're no different than Canaan or Lebanon or Hanover or any police officer that tells you they don't have a heroin or methamphetamines in their community in New Hampshire is either not understanding what's going on or not plugged into what's going on. We have heroin dealers in Enfield. We have heroin addicts. We have or I guess I would say instead of heroin, I would say opiate. We have opiate dealers in Enfield. We work regularly with the drug task force and on those cases, and we work with the county attorney's office on those. So no more than we're not. I think we're doing the stuff that we can do as a PD, and we work with our outside resources. The New Hampshire Drug Task Force, the state police, drug team. We have a great relationship with the DEA, stuff like that. And so it's here in Enfield. I'm just glad to say that it's not, you're not seeing on every corner, right? I think we're doing what we can do, and we'll keep working on it.
Is it getting worse or better or about the same?
I'd say it's about the same. It's about the same. So we've been carrying Narcan for about 12 years, and I would say we average about 3. Richard, we probably about 3 saves a year right now. So
Yeah, I would say we haven't had a lot this year. Thank goodness, as far as half the Narcan people.
Yeah. So all our officers carry Narcan, and they're all certified. And I'd say the PD itself probably averages about 3 Narcan saves a year, or uses saves a year.
And part of that, I think, is because our officers take the initiative to carry the Narcan. So if anything, it buys them some time till we get there, and then we can obviously administer more of the medication to them. So yeah, thank goodness our officers are willing to do that. So some towns do not do that. Their officers will not do it. So we're lucky. Sorry, Roy.
No, you're fine. Thank you.
Anyone have any other questions for Roy?
It's time for him to finish vacation.
I was gonna say, go
It's-
that going. Yeah, Roy.
It's just the start. What was that? I'm sorry, I missed the last one.
No, I just said, go have a beer.
Sounds good. All right, everybody. Thank you again. Sorry for doing a remote, but I didn't want to wait another 2 weeks. So,
No, thank you for your time. Go relax.
Thanks, Chief.
all right. Have a good day, everybody.
See ya. So if you're up for it, Chief, do you gentlemen that were not able to attend last week have any questions for either fire chief or EMS chief?
I don't. I just got the
I gave a quick summary overview.
PowerPoint from Chief, and I'll take a look at it.
Okay,
Follow up with any questions.
okay.
So I just got together with Chief Neely and went through his presentation and toured the firehouse. Hey, Chief Martin, I would love to do the same with you rather than just read the deck. If we could maybe coordinate, I'd love to sit down with you one-on-one, and I apologize for not being at the last meeting. It was entirely my fault. And yeah, well, I don't have anybody to blame it on though. That's what I hate. So I'll tell you what, I'm gonna grab your email address from Elisa, and I'll shoot you an email. We'll try to find an hour sometime to get together.
Yeah, I'm pretty flexible.
Okay.
On a business, so if I need to, I can come down and meet with a few of you. We can do it in an evening, whatever works.
All right, we'll figure it out. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. Thank you, guys.
Did either of you gentlemen have any questions after seeing the presentations last week? No, okay. Christine, I think is still on. Did you have anything that you thought of after the fact last week? Or anything else from today?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay.
This is something.
So we did have a question. What exactly is it that Roy, or no, not Roy, Ed is charging us with? Last week after the meeting, that question definitely came up at the end of the meeting. What exactly is the goal? What is he needing from us? And I told everyone to go home, think about what, once we get, the understanding of what services we currently have, think about as a citizen of this town, is that sufficient? Are you happy with that? Are your neighbors happy with that? Or do we need to advance anything?
So I know we
Or
planned
do
to
we need to-
discuss that at your next meeting.
Okay.
Figured you could get the background information on the departments and he will sit down with you at the next meeting and go over exactly what he's looking for.
Okay.
And.
Sounds perfect.
Yeah, just for lack of that, that's what I told everyone last meeting, is just think about it as yourself, as your neighbors, as whatever, what we have currently, what's provided to us by the three chiefs and their departments. Is that sufficient? Are we happy with that? Is that good? I mean, it is good to start, yes. But, do we feel like that we need, more? Like I said, from my seat, granted, this is my opinion, I feel like the equipment wise, the three departments, the town's already seems to be doing a good job keeping everyone not necessarily the latest and greatest, but at least modern, functioning. And if you do run into an issue not being able to do your job, it's not for the missing or failing equipment. The big issue, like I said, seems to be the building, which is being addressed. And then the only other issue is staffing, which it sounds like from Roy, he's comfortable with where they're at. Me, after his presentation, especially knowing that people do get sick and injured and whatnot, I wouldn't mind seeing one more person. So if he's doing everything right now with 7 or 7.5, having that one more for the buffer for the peak times, because in emergency services, again, it's not just an even flow where you can, it's always, this is what we need. It comes in waves. When you need the help, the extra manpower for a bad snowstorm or a busy holiday weekend or whatever like that, sometimes you can't call on your mutual aid because they're having the same issue.
I didn't ask if they've got any reserve officers. Didn't sound like it.
No. See, I'm concerned about staffing.
So, and then staffing to me seems just the big issue from from your
Across
agency,
the
your
board.
agency.
I think there's also the question that we're not getting the message out of what services we actually do provide.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's him.
If you talk to your neighbors, you say, what services does the fire department provide? Well, they go to fires, they go to auto accidents.
I mean, I think
Well-
I think the simple phrase there is marketing.
Right.
I mean, there's not really marketing of what the departments can do and what they're available
Yeah.
for and things like this. And I think marketing and staffing go hand in hand. Improve the marketing, we probably get more volunteers, we get more marketing. So the two of them are really, to me, are one and the same.
Right, and that's where we can support.
And then-
I agree that staffing's an issue.
Yeah.
And we need to support how we get that staffing.
Yeah.
Because as the head count grows, we're gonna be in.
I just saw
Tip sheet.
the poster right there for the new apartment buildings that are supposedly going in.
Yeah, so I guess I would have
That's what, 120 residents or 120 apartments,
300, I think.
300? Okay. It was a couple hundred.
So I would have a slightly different point of view.
Okay.
I think we asked the chief to give us an honest overview of his department. And he told us without any pressure,
Okay.
all three of them.
Yeah.
But we asked him without any pressure,
Mhm.
to say, how are you staffed? Is it adequate? We gave him the opportunity to say, yeah, I want more. I asked him, the FBI is saying 9, you only have 7.5. He said, no, I'm good. I think we have to respect that.
Yeah.
We could ask him more about it, but I hesitate to say, no, you need another one. That's,
No, I'm concerned that it's not adequate effort on the part of the town, I mean, certainly as the chiefs,
Right.
to support the system.
I-
And I think that we've got to look at whether that's a staffing issue, it's a marketing issue. But what exactly is it? It's tying Phil's hands to get more volunteer responses. What's Roy's ability? If he's thinking he's got to go as far as, I mean, I know his Concord is kind of an outlanding example. But he's got to start taking off to have a late response time.
Yeah.
Then maybe there's something that we can find to help that will bring more people that are local to more local, to the need that's coming. And I think that's one of the things we always do in business that I ran. We always were looking 2 years out from staff.
Sure, absolutely.
And I'm not sure they have that luxury. I think they're happy with what they've got. But we've got 200 apartments that represents how many lives?
Well, it's 4,700, some odd, rather, something.
Well, no, I'm just saying, just this new apartment complex is 200, 300 units with 600.
Well, and I think, and this is gonna be my personal opinion, that people see numbers of apartments, and I think sometimes people immediately equate that to, oh my gosh, more calls, more calls, more calls. From the fire standpoint, those are gonna be probably the latest and safest buildings in the town of Enfield. They're gonna be a sprinkler building, they're gonna be a fully alarmed building, and my guess is rents are going to reflect that it's a fairly professional rental pool that's going to be renting things. I mean, when that first initially came up, those don't scare me at all. Okay, there's gonna be a lot more to start scaring me, especially with, and you and I had talked about it with mutual aid. I mean, we have 42 towns in our mutual aid district. That doesn't mean that we get the towns that are furthest away, but we have 42. We have a great mutual aid system. Enfield doesn't have a ladder truck. I don't see a need for a ladder truck. Lebanon has 2 of them. Lebanon has a full-time manned station. They can be in that ladder truck and on their way if we need, probably before we're gonna be at the station in the truck as a, in an engine, as a call department. Talking with Lebanon and Hanover, who would be our primary mutual aid in the need of that type of equipment. They both chuckled at me and said, hey, you gotta get a lot more need than that before we're not gonna be able to help you. Okay, so I don't want to lessen it. I'm not saying not to think about it, but I guess I don't want it to be, the sky is falling.
Not trying to get that right, but I'm just saying, we
Yeah.
gotta look at that.
No, and I think it's gotta be looked at. There's a need out there somewhere. I don't know where that somewhere is.
600 more lives in Enfield, and have some hard.
Sure. Well, sure.
Medical needs that need to be addressed, and whether we're only working 7 or 10. EMS qualified.
I mean, I look at you from an educational point of view, there's meets expectations, there's exceeds expectations. Meets expectations is passive. But do we want to pass or do we want to be prepared for something worse? And I think having, like you said, life happens, right? And if there's one officer that goes down, maybe it's something, even a job issue where a guy falls, which happens too. Now they're really strapped.
Mhm.
It'd be nice to have that reserve so that they don't have that kind of stress on them. Same thing, it'd be nice to have a little bit more reserve with EMS and with fire. Not necessarily because of the apartment stuff, but just so it takes a little pressure off the people that are doing it. Because nothing is gonna burn people. I mean, the average EMT only recertifies once, and things like this because of burnout, and things like this.
Yeah.
I think we need to provide a little bit of a cushion. I mean, even when you look at the building going in, the building should have been, it shouldn't be for what they need right now. It should be for what they're gonna need in the future. And then I think the same thing with the departments. I think we need to be looking at not really what they need right now, but like you said, right now,
I think
they're
we need
meeting
to
their
look at
needs.
both.
Yeah,
We need to look at where everyone is right now. So right now, especially based on that conversation with Roy, I think the police department is good
Yeah,
for now.
yeah, exactly,
They need next to nothing from us right now.
right now.
except if we do some marketing or whatnot, include just all three agencies. Hey, these are the things that police department offers, some extra services, fire department, rescue squad and whatnot. But to me, it would be the two biggest needs right now would be
Yeah.
getting more personnel for the other two departments.
I think it comes from a couple of different directions. If I may, just-
No, go ahead.
I don't think people know what the fire department, what EMS is. I think they have a pretty good idea of what the police department is.
Yeah.
Okay. But when you came to town, did you look to see what the fire department was? When you moved to town, did you look to see what the fire department was? People do not do that.
I did. I was impressed you had 2 fire stations.
Pardon?
I was impressed you had 2 fire stations.
Well,
I
okay.
was gonna say,
Generally,
I'm not a good example, because I looked in the interest of possibly joining both agencies,
But where I'm going, and that's probably why you two are on the committee
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
okay?
I get what you're saying. I'm
Yeah,
just giving you.
But typically, people, as long as the equipment shows up, they do not care what the name is, they don't care who's getting out of the truck, they don't know whatsoever.
Yeah.
Okay, since I've been fire chief, which is coming up, must be, what, 3 years?
3 years.
Yeah, I think, I lose track. I'm old.
I heard,
Uh,
I listened to you.
In those 3 years, I've had one person say, and I've got nothing to do with the EMS, but the person came up to me because it said Enfield on the red car. How come my mother got taken by 11 in ambulance? You know, but that's the only time. And prior to that, I worked for the town for 18 years and I never had a person ask any question like that. I think we need to advertise. I think because this group, in what your recommendations end up being with, what Ed is looking for or what the select board is looking for, going to need town support with that. So I think you've got to be proactive. I think we've got to be proactive. I think we're saying the same thing, to move forward, you're gonna have to have the support of the people.
Yes.
Versus just that, oh yeah, the police should have one more, we should have full-time EMS, we should have, I don't, it's not gonna go with that either.
Also, some of that, kind of jumping on Phil's coattails there, usually like EMS for years, it's been like 4 to 1 to fire calls. So, like Phil said, when that lady said that to him about why did someone else show up, I don't think they really understand. As long as I've been on, we've never really had enough people. And that's 20 something years. And we just never had enough,
Yeah.
And they don't understand that. Yeah. Like Bill, when he moved to town, he did not know we had a fast squad because I fixed his truck and he didn't even know when I was talking to him. I'm like, oh yeah, we got a fast squad. I mean, the fast squad definitely needs help. I mean, we got to do something.
That may be how we approach people too. I mean, we've always, from the fire service, hey, we want firefighters, we want certified, we want this, we want that. I think we're, at a point where we have to look at and say, okay, we need people that can drive the truck and pump the truck. That can be one group of people. Then we need people that are good at extrication. We need people that are good at this. Then we do need that pool of people that are certified so that we're able to meet all the needs and do it and limit the town's liability. But I think we've got to look at a little different direction sometimes.
Because to your point, I mean, I think that goes to understanding. You say to somebody, what does it take to be a part of the fire department? I can't do that. I can't climb ladders and drag hoses and all this kind of stuff. And even with the rescue squad, I can't carry people on a stretcher. And they have that perception. And I think a lot of it, again, comes to education. I'll go back to Mike Days with Bear Valley. We had people that were just sole drivers. That's all they did was drive and things like this. So I think, again, with some outreach, some education, stuff like this, maybe you can get somebody who drives or pumps versus somebody who extricates. Same thing with the squad. Maybe they can get somebody who drives the bus versus actually is in the back working a patient.
Well, and state law has to enter into some of that, especially for Richards, because you got to have 2 EMTs.
Well, right, but they can get their EMT, but if they're like, look, I'll get my EMT, but I'm just not comfortable treating somebody, fine,
Well,
you can drive.
Then you got to have, then there's the research, then there's the recertification, and
Yeah.
Richard can go into all of that,
Yeah.
but I think that gets much more detailed.
Yeah, I have had people call and say that to me about it, oh, well, literally former paramedics that no longer have their license. And I would have been fine. Listen, hey, can you just get your EMR? You don't have to go through all your paramedic again, because I can always call someone on the fire department to come drive for us. But it's
Yeah.
having that second person, which is kind of
Yeah.
foolish. They relaxed it during COVID. But, you know, literally, I've been in the back doing patient care while the paramedic drove, because the person did not need a paramedic. And he just
Yeah.
happened to show up. So he's like, yeah, I'll drive. I'm like, okay. You know,
Well,
it
and-
happens.
Richard and I talked about that too, as far as getting people that would get their EMR, so that we've got them cross-trained with
Yeah.
the fire department, that can go with the
Yeah.
EMS as well. But the other part of that is we still need numbers of people,
Yeah.
because it's gonna be the same people doing it twice as much, and I know what my wife will say to that. It's not gonna be pleasant.
No, I think that it's good points. To me, the way I'm sitting right now and I'm thinking of things, the police department seems like good, right? They're kind
Yeah.
of, they're buttoned up, but we've definitely got needs with EMS from what I'm hearing, and what you shared with me today, we've got needs. So how do we market to get more volunteers to be stepping up and being trained and being usable is a good question. The other piece of that is, how do we get more younger people?
Yeah.
Because the people we do have, we said the average age is probably in the 40s, which is still young, but I would love to see us getting some 20-year-olds in there.
I mean, I'll be honest, I think part of it's the building. I think the building should be the centerpiece of the marketing.
Oh, I
You know-
think the building will draw.
Yeah.
I think the big building will be a draw, but I think we need to be
But-
ready.
Well, but what I'm saying is, I mean, use the building as a marketing agent in the sense, draw people in
Mhm.
classes, you know,
Mhm.
whether it's, you know, PR classes, whether it's basic first aid courses, babysitter courses, you know, whatever kind of thing. Even if it's just doing flu shot clinics or something, but just start drawing people in there,
Mhm.
you know, kind of thing, to the point where, and hopefully you will draw some younger people in there who kind of go, hey, you know, this is
Yeah.
It's
kind of cool. I like
Yeah.
this. Maybe I'd like
Yeah.
to spend more time here.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
think maybe that's the biggest impact that we can have, short of hiring people, is once the building gets built and you can actually have these classes. You know, having these type of classes, I'll say, in this room is completely different than having these classes where they had to walk past that fire truck or ambulance to get.
Or go out and take the break and, hey, come on out and take a look
Come
at
out and
what
take
we
a look,
got
yeah.
for equipment.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
you know, it makes a huge difference.
The other thing I'd love to see us do, is everybody has said they have a 6-year plan. I would love to see all of those 6-year plans, because
Well,
like somebody said, we can't be thinking of just today, we have to be thinking about the future. And then within those plans, I would love to ask the chiefs to all tell us what the metrics are
Yeah.
that suggest, okay, boom, now I need to step up from here.
Yeah.
And what does that step up look like? And if we're, you know, kind of waving our hands or looking at a crystal ball, when do we anticipate that would be?
Yeah.
I think that would be really helpful, and I think that's probably something Ed would want
Yeah.
as well.
I thought that was a good question to the police when you asked that about that too. What, you know, what would he use to kind of say, I need somebody else?
Yeah, and if you were here, I think I'd would have respectfully maybe challenged him a little bit more to say, yeah, give me some quantitative.
Yeah.
What does that look like?
I'm sure there's gonna be something in his head that would trigger
Oh,
that
I'm
would
sure,
trip.
I'm
That would
sure. I
say,
think I
need
just
somebody
off
else.
guard.
So in my mind, I kind of agree with what he said. He's like, right, as of now, they are covering not only the must-dos.
Yeah.
But the want-to-dos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, the required services and all of the extra services that they want to offer. Right now, they're able to cover all that.
Yeah.
If they, like he said, once they get to the point that they're not able to do all of the extra things, the nice things to have, that's when he would start looking at, okay, we might need an extra person
Mhm.
here, whether it's an extra part-time or
But
or
if
an
you're
extra.
doing all
full-time.
the extra things that he really wants to do.
Well, that would be one thing, and I'd wonder too, he was talking,
Doing extra things, but is there a list of things that
Yeah.
could also be done?
Beyond
Well,
that,
he'd
that
like
he
to make
wants
the
to
list
do,
bigger,
that's a
right?
good question.
and the other thing too is he said, you know, retention was an issue. Are you gonna get an officer who says, you know what, I can jump to this town and basically get paid to do less,
Right.
the same amount, I'm out of here. In which case, now you're gonna start having massive turnover because you're working them a little too much, so.
So, the police department put an interesting program in place, in conjunction with Ed for retention, and it was a retention bonus. And I don't know what it looks like, but is there anything like that that would help EMS and fire? Anything creative we could do to get more volunteers?
Well, we kind of did, because Fire, from the fire side, fire was, and I believe it was $16 an hour across the board, no
Yeah.
matter what your rank was, no matter how long, whatever.
Yeah.
That is one of the things that we have changed in one of the slides that was in the presentation that I did that gave the rates of pay.
Mhm.
I see less people showing up since that has been done. It did not, I don't think that pay raise brought people in whatsoever there.
Hmm.
And I don't. I know that we have to make it an incentive for people, but I think it's got to be starting with the people themselves and wanting to do it. Nobody, I don't think people are on a paid call department for the money.
I was gonna say, what about certification and training opportunities?
Oh, God. We'll see, let's.
Well, I know, but I'm saying,
I'm,
but as a draw.
no, I
Right,
said that.
I would think people would, the space, one thing that's gonna, again, I'm going to my experience, like, we have students that go to take jobs. One of the things that sometimes decides a job is their ability to get extra training and to do other types of programs. And I've seen students take
Endless.
significantly less pay
It's
for those opportunities.
It's endless.
Yeah.
Okay. It's, I mean, between what the state offers, what we offer ourselves, we've got training coming up in September, there's 6 classes. I mean, and I'll put this
Yeah.
out to the membership and get 1, get 2. We pay them to go, we pay for the training, and we provide them a vehicle to go.
But is there something that the fire department could, again, look for market, is there something they could specialize in, become a center for? So which kind of draws people in, so instead of having a bunch of whole big shotgun of different types of trainings, be really a master of really a particular kind of training.
And I think you've got to get your other departments in the area
Yeah.
around this too, because we could become, and I'm just gonna throw out water rescue.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got a boat. We have certified people for it.
Right.
But you've got to get other, if we're just doing that for Enfield once a year.
Right.
For a rescue, it's really not a big bang for the buck.
Right.
I know, last week, I think it was. Last week or 2 weeks ago, yeah, last week, there was a decent sized response for a water rescue on the Connecticut.
Yeah.
Hanover, Hartford, and Lubbock.
I was gonna say, did you
Yeah.
get a call for it? Probably not.
The Dartmouth kid.
No, I mean, don't call them the big 3.
Yeah.
Okay, if you get a water rescue, if Lebanon has a water rescue on Mascoma on their end of the property, we'll get called. But Hartford, Hanover, and Lebanon are gonna be the ones that are there. They train together all the time, they work together all the time, and you get other smaller departments kind of get left out.
Yeah, they do. They do.
It's,
John,
it's hard to specialize in one specific type of call. Unless you get a lot of that one specific type of call.
Again,
Like there's a fire department down in, just outside of DC that people will drive hours and they'll stay there for a weekend. Trying to remember the name of the department. But their specialty is,
Prince,
I
Prince
think,
Edward
no, it's a
Township.
volunteer department.
In Virginia.
Yeah.
So you guys watched that video too, then?
Yeah.
You must have watched that
Oh.
video on.
It's,
I've had friends that volunteer there.
Yeah.
But anyway, their specialty is extrication.
Yep.
And heavy rescue, because where they are at, where their station is located, the sections of 3 or 4 different interstates that they cover in the interchanges, they're on, their numbers are ridiculous. And so they're doing it all the time. And so anyone who has any interest in vehicle extrication, heavy rescue, that kind of thing, in the fire service, you volunteer there to get really good.
Or you go to one of their trainings.
Or you go to their trainings.
Or you watch the video, right, Richard?
Yeah,
Or you-
or watch the video. No, they got more people they can possibly handle. That's what I think is really cool when the guy was talking about it.
But But I mean, a town like, and all your small towns have to be able to handle such a variety of things. I mean, we're not waiting for Lebanon to come to do an extrication, for
Yeah.
instance, to get a person out of a car. We've got to be able to do that. Richard's not waiting to administer or start care. You know, he's not waiting for Lebanon for that.
Yeah.
And I understand what you're saying as far as trying to get people in, but I don't know that,
Thinking, again, on the idea of being creative.
yeah.
So our physician assistant program, right, is in a very rural location. We're competing with a lot of big urban schools with phenomenal facilities. Yet we're very successful and we're the number 2 program in the country for reducing rural healthcare EAs. So, and what we do is we teach them a lot of MacGyver, what I refer to as MacGyver medicine. So again, taking an advantage that we have, so we have this kind of broad thing. We can teach your guys to be able to handle all kinds of stuff. MacGyver firefighters, for lack of a better phrase, you know, kind of thing versus, yeah, you go here, you go to the place in Virginia, you're gonna be an awesome extricator, but you can't do squat other than that.
Sure.
You know, kind of thing versus we can show you how to do everything. You know, you come with us, we will teach you how to do absolutely, whether it's water, mountain rescue, whether it's extrication, whether it's structured fire, brush
And
fire.
I think we're offering that, it is, and I don't know how the next step is, and
Who knows you're on?
Yeah, see,
well, and
and
again, that's what we've got to get out.
I think, and that's how you bring,
That's what he's saying we need, is we need more,
I think
we
it's hard
need
to bring
to-
the young people in.
there needs to be the marketing plan to get out there and let the public know
We've
what
talked
is going
about
on,
doing
what
a,
the opportunities are.
Yeah.
But that's been the challenge, and volunteer fire and EMS
Oh, forever.
going back forever.
well, I went to the high school superintendent and I said, what will you give for credit to students that would take, and I showed them the level 1 fire course, okay? And the superintendent was all up for this. This is great. We've got a whole group of kids that would fall into this crack. Hartford doesn't do it anymore.
This Oxford should do
And, you know, Oxbow
Yeah.
is limited, I think. They don't do a public safety anymore. But then, so the next step was going to the state and finding out what we could do for a class. Well, you're gonna have 16 and 17-year-olds, and they gotta be 18 to take this class, and you're gonna have all state instructors, and you can't take a regular teacher or people that have got years of experience. So, I mean, we have thought about some of this. I know there's stuff out there.
Yeah.
I know there's people out there. I just don't know. I mean, we've got it on Facebook. I'm so sick of writing about that we need people in the newsletter. Elisa's sick of it. Because it's the same old, you know.
Well, maybe along that line too. I mean, to be honest, Facebook is us. It's basically 40, 50-year-olds now. I mean, the kids are not on Facebook.
Yeah.
They're on Instagram.
You don't have my employees.
Well, I mean, they are. It's all the old folkies that are on Facebook.
It's everywhere.
But it's all the kids. They're all on Instagram and TikTok and stuff like this. And
Yeah.
so, you know, we need to get to where they are. We need to get their voice to where they are. So finding,
Do a TikTok video. We'll get us.
Yeah, I was just saying, they just said it.
Sorry, they banned it. They banned
but
it.
it sounds goofy and funny, but actually doing something like that, and all of a sudden you get like 1 million hits. You know,
Oh, you're gonna get some notice.
you're gonna get people that are gonna wanna come in and find out what's going on. And you know, and it sounds goofy, but it works.
Mhm.
You know, and it's interesting because you look at how all that kind of marketing kind of works. You know, you look at like old movies, you look at movies. Movies were always, you know, previews and TV ads. Now, and you notice now, like almost none of the movies are advertised on TV. They're all advertised on social media. You know, it's all, and they have trailer releases, they have all kinds of hidden stuff, things like this. I mean, I know this is what my kid does in LA, but you know, it's just good social media stuff at studios and things, and they are fortunate and they get
Well,
huge amounts of hits.
I'm terrible about it because I have nothing
No,
on social media.
I mean,
Okay, because I don't want to hear it.
yeah, I mean, I'm still,
This guy either.
I'm still just on Facebook.
Not even on the
You know, which I get laughed at, but yeah, but it's, when I look at like my student, like the program has an Instagram page. We've generated applicants for the program out of the Instagram page. You know, and things like this. So I think it's because again, that's where the young people are. You know, I think part of it too is I think we've been advertising at the wrong crowd. You know, kind of thing. And So I think there's definitely potential there. It's just a matter of finding that little hot button and kind
Yeah,
of.
because when we go to the elementary schools, we get kids enthused, they are
Yeah,
happy, they
yeah.
love seeing us, and it's like Roy said, you know, I know Roy, my friend Roy is here. You know, you go through the grocery store and there's some little kid running up, hey, you know, and, you know, that type of thing, but, it's that group that can help us.
Have we ever tried anything with River Valley Community College? You're getting over the 18-year-olds then,
Yeah.
and I wonder.
Oh, I still think that we can do something with the high school. Got-
Oh, I agree.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree.
no, I'm thinking,
Yeah,
I
but
absolutely
RBCC
agree, I'm thinking like a two-prong approach. What could we do through
Well,
that?
they have a lot of health
Gotta be-
programs with,
Yeah.
you know, things like this. I agree. I think there's
Yeah.
definitely people who might be interested in having a second certification.
Right.
I agree.
I know you need to be over 18 to do level 1, but are there other certifications that you don't need to be over 18?
Oh, we could do any certifications. But it's also the liability.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's always the kicker is
I mean,
a lot of liability coverage won't let you drive until you're 21.
you know, that we could do an Explorer program.
Yeah.
I've been involved with an Explorer program, but it's having enough people that will work with the Explorer program to keep it going, to see those kids that start at 15 all the way through until they are 18 and become a member of the department. That's very difficult.
I gotta go to bingo.
Yep.
No, not to play, to work.
Oh,
Bye,
so I hope
guys.
you hit the big one.
No, raising money for the fast squad and fire department and police, so.
Good
I
luck.
gotta take up the slack for Phil. Bye, guys. Thank you. Any questions, let me know, any information you want, whatever you
Okay.
guys need. All right.
Chief, real quick.
Yeah. Yeah.
The agreement we have with Leb, is that just covered under the mutual aid, statewide mutual aid agreement, or is that a
No,
contract
Contract.
for
Yeah.
them to provide?
I think it's
Okay.
300 and something a call. Eventually, we're gonna get a breaking point where we're probably gonna have to hire people, but
Yeah.
I don't think we're there yet, so. But then
Would you have numbers?
you
as to
know how prices go up, so.
Yeah. Would you have numbers as to how many calls they come in to cover for us?
We could probably
So-
get those. Yeah. I mean, obviously they bill us. So they definitely, you know, we could just live it here. Here's the number from what we got billed. So now we do, be honest with you, I don't know. I think every time they come here, for a paramedic, because we don't use paramedics very often. And we
Right.
don't really call them very often because we're so close. But yeah, I think every time they come, we get billed. So I don't think we have mutual aid with them. They get money,
Okay.
but we can find that out for sure.
Because actually, looking up something Christine, I was gonna say, Christine noted right there too. You know, you could actually put in an Enfield Fire YouTube channel.
We actually
Yeah.
have an Enfield YouTube channel.
All right.
And it put it, but for the
Thanks,
fire,
Rich.
department, you know what I mean? In which case, you have, and this is where you could bring, this is where you could bring in somebody who doesn't have to be a firefighter.
Mhm.
You bring in some kid who basically is a photographer, for lack of a better word, who comes in, takes scene images, takes some video, stuff like this, and then posts it. You know, kind of thing. And they will, again, I'm just trying to think of ways to get.
Well,
people to start
we've talked about either using like the school drama department.
Yes.
Or their IT, for lack of a better,
Yeah.
I mean, their computer science class. We need to get into the high school more.
I agree.
We want to design a new patch for the department. We're opening up a new station. You know, want to try to get the art class involved with that, you know, we'll come up with $100 gift certificate or something. But, you know, to get these kids involved and see the fire department, and, you know,
Yeah, I agree. Get them in the.
I don't.
Can you,
Use the social service, the Rotaries and the Kiwanis to help us get. our message.
That's a good thought too.
So I think they could help with just public education about what services are available here in town. like you do with like for the people that move into town and are expecting, are shocked to find out that there's no firefighters sitting in that station over there. No,
Fire
they're paying
hydrant
call.
over there.
There's, you know, there's,
Well, we also have the welcome wagon, which we could do, which we could do something more, and these things are just coming to my mind.
Right.
You know, through the village association,
Yeah.
because they were just looking for things to put in the bag.
Yeah.
We need to do a public release about what the fire department, not just give them a, new magnet, what.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, not that, but just an interesting idea. When we moved to Holland, New Jersey, which is about maybe 50%, 60% bigger than Enfield. We literally had, not one of the chiefs, one of the assistant chiefs actually come to the house. Hey, welcome to town. We've got 2 different stations. If you call, this is one that's probably gonna respond from. Do you want us to take a peek at your smoke detectors? Kind of like, do you mind if we take a walkthrough? So if anything, like if we need to come here, we have an idea of the floor
do you want
plan.
to be a volunteer?
Yeah, and then, yeah, well, I didn't know, well, I was already signing up, but yeah, it was one of those things, but it was a nice kind of intro, and it kind of showed, hey, yeah, they're involved and engaged.
We gotta get back to the base of where we have people to do that
Yeah,
stuff,
that's a big,
because Phil can't do it all.
no, exactly, but that's where, I mean, again, but that's maybe somebody you can recruit, again, how to do, kind of thing, and again, it may draw some young people in, because can you help us?
And I'm sure it would. You
Yeah.
gotta get those people.
It's the same, I'll say the same adage of you gotta have money to make money.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
gotta have people to be able to put it in
Well,
hours to get.
And I don't think I gave it my presentation, but I threw it out to Dan today. I mean, we had 238 calls last year, which isn't a lot of calls, but we're a call department. I went to 227. Okay,
And you can't go knock on a couple of doors?
well, I mean, I can't. But
He did, 227.
227. So, and that's okay, because I'm a fanatic, and I'm doing this because I love it, and I think that it's.
Yeah.
Come across, but then there's gonna be a change at some point in time.
Yeah.
Because I'm not gonna die here. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
I hope that doesn't go public.
Bill,
Yeah.
this is a productive conversation. How about this? I'll try. Thinking of some more marketing ideas for Phil and for Richard.
Yeah.
And come back the next meeting and throw them out.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I don't know that it's appropriate for the next meeting, because I'd like to kind of hear from Ed. But at some point, I would like to see those strategic plans from the chiefs, so we can,
So there's really 2 avenues on that, I think. One is the CIP, which is the capital improvement.
Yeah.
So that shows as far as looking forward, as far as equipment, because you asked me the question, what do you need?
Yeah.
Or do you want? I mean, those are 2 different things, and really, fire department is in need of anything, as I said. And then there's also the strategic. Equipment. Then there's also the strategic plan of, and I don't know, I haven't been involved with it.
It is posted on the select board's page on the website. If you want to look at it.
And Phil leaves.
The most recent strategic plan.
and it has each of these 3 departments
It's
in there.
not organized necessarily like that, but you can see what
The information is
The overall,
Okay.
And that, I think the strategic plan has been kind of done, and then it has dropped off, and then it has picked up again. Is that fair to say?
Yes, it's in a new format.
Yeah.
It used to be, but,
It depends on who the town manager is at the time.
I'm sorry?
It depends on who the town manager is at the time.
Yes, every town manager has different ideas.
You're so politically correct.
And that's being recorded too.
I'm not saying they're good or bad, they're just all.
they're all different ideas.
And I think that's a fair thing, and I mean, I generally say what's on my mind. I've been here for 4 town managers and 2 interims. And I think Elisa makes a very good point. Each one comes in with a different set of goals.
Sure. Yeah.
I think the longer we have a town manager, the consistency remains better so that more goals get achieved. Town managers that come in with a lot of goals. Previous one had a lot of goals, but then all of a sudden, oh, gone. And those goals change with the next one.
Yeah.
And don't get completed. And
And the strategic plan, the methodology has changed a little bit, rather than having the like, department focused, it's the select board's plan. As opposed to the department's plan,
Okay,
so. You know, if you go in there and read it, then you can come up with questions and.
Okay.
or it can-
and some of the
Alright.
strategic plan from a few years ago kind of got changed too, because the fire department went from a fire ward system where it was a self-governing, not a town department. That got voted out and then it became a town department. So then you had the select board and the town manager involved in how that was evolving, I guess. And it's also been through several chiefs. And so that changes with each time.
So something that's just nagging at me in the back of my head from an article I read, a couple articles that I've read over the last couple of years. I'm all for going 200% marketing, public education, whatever we come up with to try to increase volunteering, recruitment, retention. But in the back of my mind, and I've seen it myself firsthand that times are changing. The ability for people to volunteer, whether or not you have an interest, is less now than it was 10 years ago,
Yeah.
20 years ago. Back 20 years ago, 15 years ago, most households had a primary breadwinner and someone that was staying at home raising the family. Most people were at the time were only working until 4 or 5 o'clock, and then they'd be home. You had more people staying in town, working in town, in jobs that employers like Rich's that understood, hey, I'm gonna go for a half hour, handle this call, and I'll be back. The house next door is burning down. Whereas today, the cost of childcare is through the roof. So people can't necessarily afford it. So they're raising their kids at home, kind of like how they used to. The only problem is now you can't leave a 3-year-old at home to go run a fire call or go run a squad call. People just being able to afford to live, most households now, both people are working. There's a lot of households that people are working 2, sometimes 3 jobs. And after you're working 2 full-time jobs, the last thing you want to do is come home and get up in the middle of your 4 hours that you're going to get that night to go on a squad call or a fire call. I'm not trying to be negative Nancy, just trying to be real. In the fact that, yes, we can try, I'm willing to go. Hey, that's what we have set up, so let's try to get it. But in the end, it may come down to that, like a lot of departments are finding out, having to transition to some type of combination department, because even though both departments are paid on call, so when you respond to a call, you get paid, that's not something you can live off of. That's not a full-time job. There's no benefits that come with it. Yes, you're covered under insurance while you're there, but that's it.
But is your employer gonna keep you employed if you get hurt on a secondary?
That's another factor.
Secondary.
There are
call
so many
versus-
things.
Well, yeah,
There are so many things today that are that have changed in the last 10 years, that it's making it harder and harder and harder for people to volunteer.
Well, kind of to your point too, your Gen Xers, Gen Z are still having the attention span. You know, they don't have the attention span.
No.
You know, you're not gonna get somebody who, because even from a work point of view, you know, you don't get people that work 20, 30 years for an employer anymore. You know, they work 5, 6 years here, then they work 10 years there, and they, you know, they kind of keep bouncing around, so the same kind of thing, the attention, it's not only the home responsibilities, it's the attention span. You know,
I think it's reasonable. I think doing the public outreach, I think is very important.
Yeah.
But I think a length of time should be thought about of how long do we do this? What's the results been? Look at those results. Because those results are gonna be what the next step asks.
Yeah.
Okay. They're gonna be asking, well, what have you done in the meantime before you're presenting a full-time department? We have done this, we did it for this length of time, this is what we tried, it did not work.
Okay.
I think you and I are in very much in the same vein.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be suggesting, all of a sudden staffing up,
Oh.
full-time, 24/7, in paid career, in-house. It would be more, in my mind, it would be more of, okay, 3 people in-house kind of thing. One, to make sure so we always have a driver operator.
Yep.
And to get it out the door. And then it would, 6 to 6, the times that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Staffing is at its lowest. And then 2 licensed providers, whether it's an EMR and EMT, 2 EMTs, a paramedic, any combination of 2 of those 3 certification levels to handle the ambulance. And to me, the breaking point for hiring some personnel to staff that would be when, whatever the numbers are that Rich comes up with for what Leb's charging us. Although on the flip side, especially with where our department is going to be at now physically, maybe it's something that a partnership could be looked at. Where it's, hey, we're on the Canaan, the new station's pretty much is what, a quarter mile from the Canaan town line, half mile from the Canaan town line?
Property above the town.
Well, there you go. So is that something, an opportunity to come up with some type of partnership with our neighboring town? To ensure that between the two. But I don't know anything about Canaan. I know nothing about, I know they have ambulance coverage. I don't know if that's in-house 24/7. I don't know if that's in-house 9 to 5.
They do a tip basically the same as what
Same.
Lebanon covers Enfield, the 6 to 6.
Okay,
And then the rest are
but paid per call volunteer.
paid for call
Okay.
volunteer. That's on the ambulance. The
Right.
fire department is not, it's all paid call, the same as we are.
Gotcha.
I think one of the things that is going to be difficult is 2 things that are going to be difficult to use. One is talking about full-time because the public safety building sale of that was, okay, we're getting the building. We're not looking at full-time, right? And that was kind of always
Okay,
yeah, that's not what we're looking at. And so that's why I emphasize the proving of.
proving of everything else first.
Yes. The second, and I'm gonna throw.
And like,
Lisa
I'm
under
just
the
gonna
bus.
say it again. I'm not saying to jump straight into the paid
No,
side,
I'm not.
just.
But I think. Would you agree that that was some of the discussion throughout the public safety building?
I was there that day. There was a lot of discussion on that. I remember. that.
Okay,
Yeah.
so not just my
No,
take from
yeah.
it, and, okay. So, in the second part, when you were saying jointly with another town, in Canaan, and I think we talked about originally that what's being said in here pretty much stays in here.
Mhm.
Canaan is in their own dilemmas at this point.
This meeting video will be posted online.
Oh, it is posted on. Okay, Canaan is in their own dilemmas at this.
Everyone has their own problems.
Everybody has their own problem, and they're going through some changes. There may be some opportunities there,
Okay.
may not be some opportunity, I don't know.
Yeah.
Don't know those quick the door.
Which I,
I said, you don't know if the door's open if you don't check it.
well, you don't know, you don't know in what direction it can go, I mean. I hope that the new station offers a lot of other opportunities than just housing. What?
Yeah.
I'll also say, I'm glad you said the first part of that, Michelle, because
Yeah,
having
that,
lived here in town now for just 1 year full-time, but having had many, many years part-time, I would say that the appetite of the public for an increase in taxes is zero.
There was,
no
that
one
was
ever
a
saying
huge,
taxes.
that was a huge part of that discussion.
Yeah, and last
Everybody
year-
Talked about that.
Yeah, and last year, I was at that meeting, but then last year it was, felt like it was even more of
Yeah.
a groundswell to not
Yeah.
increase taxes, and that's why. Yeah, I think we need to proceed with that in the back of our minds. We're gonna do the right thing and come up with the right recommendations, so we have to have that in our minds.
Yeah.
As well, and if the chiefs are telling us we don't need it now. Again, we'll go back to, okay, you gotta tell us what would happen that would make you say, yeah, I do need an increase.
And we need to be prepared to, when the trigger is pulled.
Yeah.
We need to be able to fire the gun.
Yes, absolutely, and I would have no problem with that, but I think we could begin preparing the public to say, we went through this comprehensive review, and what we found was good news. We have great equipment, we have great buildings, understaffed in these two areas, police department's good. But there will be a day, if this town continues to grow, that we will have to take on more services. So when we consider Laramie Farms and we say, oh, it's gonna be net positive, well, let's figure out if we had 3 more Laramie Farms. Is the amount of money we're gonna spend on services, then gonna increase our taxes and not reduce our taxes. So it all buttons back to the financials.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I think that would be, I'll say on the upside, if Leb, because in my mind, most other mutual aid agreements, like service coverage agreements, that I've dealt with in the past have been, okay, we'll supplement you X number of thousands of dollars, we'll pay Leb $10,000 a year to cover us 6 to 6, 5 days a week. Or 5,000, whatever the number is. And then Leb gets the added income of being able to bill the person just like they do on every other call. I find it interesting that they pay us per call. Or they charge us, sorry, they charge us per call that they cover for us. And to me, that would make it easier, I'll say, to convince people that, okay, it's time, Leb is charging us.
Yeah.
$30,000 a
But it's
year
all about the numbers.
because of the calls that they're having to come into our town to cover. For whatever.
Yeah.
We can do, whether it's on our own, whether it's a joint venture, whatever the case may be, we're paying this already.
Yeah.
We don't
Well,
have
the
to
other
change much to
positive
get
is
that.
out of that, what's being paid already, it can also help the fire, and I'm gonna be, it's about helping the fire department. Because if those people are EMS and fire,
Mhm.
then you're covering 2 needs out of 1 pot, essentially, one pool.
Yeah. Absolutely. So. Okay. So your thought, I think was a good one. For next week, when Ed's here, if we can all just think about just some marketing ideas, whether it's,
Do we have a meeting set for next week?
I'm sorry, next meeting, whenever that is. I don't think we have one.
I missed that on your
set.
calendar.
Yeah, I didn't get that memo either.
It needs to be said.
So, so we need to set a meeting, but for the next meeting, try to come into the next meeting with some feasible, some actionable ideas for marketing, for public education, for any of the above. to try to increase recruitment. I think targeting like the Lions Club, Rotary Club, whatever like that could potentially pan out if we have if there's some people there that
I like the high
maybe are former firefighters or former EMTs that can get their EMR again, or are willing to come down, they have experience, come down and just be driver engineers, not be level 1. So there may be some benefit there. Going to the high school, getting back into there, it is, I think, a great idea. Just how to make that work. And like you said, to get them interested in high school and keep them interested, because they can't do anything, can't do the level 1 till they're 18, which will be after they're out of high school, and then whether moving away, going to college, whatever the case may be. But then,
Charters, high school. Those are kids that aren't necessarily mainstream,
No,
have some challenges.
Some of the problem is getting them here.
They're generally older though, they're kids that are be hitting the 18 to 20 range.
Yeah.
And maybe
but anyway,
They have to bail out.
yep, but come with ideas.
Yep.
Whether it's for more experienced people to join in to help with more specialty things, or younger people that are old enough though to help bring.
One of the things that have, that we are working on is with the DPW, some of the DPW employees. That's already been okayed by the town manager.
Okay.
And,
Or
trying to work some of those people in as well. They're already town employees.
Right.
I'll make a list too, because I keep thinking this stuff.
all right.
Do we have a date?
So that's the next thing we need to do just before everyone jets. What, does Thursday still work for everyone? Do we need to move it to another day of the week?
keep telling you, you're willing to golf game.
how good is your birthday?
Not good.
That's it, huh?
It's all the help it can get.
Thursday still work for me, yes.
Thursday still work for you, okay?
Yeah.
I guess my my question for you, Elisa, is when is Ed available? That's,
Well,
Yeah,
honestly,
see,
it
yeah.
is available the next 2 Thursdays. I
Okay.
believe.
either one of those I could easily do, but both of those, so that would be either the 18th or the 25th, I would be remote. I wouldn't be able to be here because I'll be down in Jersey. Yeah, Wednesday to Friday, I'll be out of town.
I could certainly do next Thursday or the Thursday after, but no, I cannot do the Thursday after. And I would not feel like we needed to get together next Thursday.
Okay. So don't need to get together next Thursday. You two in agreement?
Saying no meeting the 18th,
18th.
Correct.
okay? Going to the 25th? Or would you go to the first week of August?
That'd be,
First.
I'd be fine with the 20th.
First.
I would be fine with the 25th.
I could do either one.
Okay.
25 or 1. I won't be able to do the week after the 8th. That'll put me,
Christine's right.
otherwise there'll be a police fire incident. There'll be a police fire incident at my house if I take the thing. So that means
Alright, Christine, we prefer the 18th. That's next week. Or Christine, are you saying August 18th?
That's a Sunday.
So no,
yeah.
can't do the 25th.
How about August 1st? Sounds like that's,
I think August 1st, because it make it look better.
sounds
It's looking like it's a lot.
August 1st?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what its availability is towards the end. I know I'm gonna be away and I think that there might be a time that it's gonna be away too. Sure, that's good. don't recall.
All right, so would another day, the week of the 21st to the 27th be good for anyone?
That whole week is bad for me.
That whole week is bad for you.
Correct.
Okay. Is there another day that week that Ed is available?
So. I
Just if we know Ed's schedule, if we think we know his schedule for the next 2 weeks.
I think the next 2 weeks he's available. I
Okay,
think that he's available I think he's available the last week of July. And starts into August there, so 28th through August 3rd. After that, I'm not sure.
okay.
So he might be August 1st, might be okay.
August 20th.
Because I know there's a select board meeting on the 29th.
All right, so who said they couldn't be on the first? Did anyone say no to the first?
I think the first.
First works. Okay, first works for her. We think it works for Ed.
Right, we can try that,
Okay,
yes.
Thank you all.
See
ya.
Thank you, Phil.
if it doesn't work for Ed, do we have another date again in the next?
Do you want to do it then? Set another date that week?
I just want to have a backup.
Yeah.
So we're all available on the first. I'll be remote again, but that's fine. So first choice will be the first. Second choice,
Tuesday the 20th, what's that? Tuesday the
30th, Tuesday the 30th.
I'm good.
Yeah, I could do it.
I keep looking at the screen to look at Christine. Should be looking at the camera to look at Christine. I got one.
Thank you, Phil.
You said you're good the 30th if the first doesn't work for Ed?
Thanks, guys.
Okay,
Yep, yeah. Excellent.
first works for you, Christine. How about the 30th?
First it is.
Okay,
So the 30th is the second choice?
correct. So the first choice will be August 1st in this room. I'll let you know now, I'll be remote. If that doesn't work for Ed, then the second choice would be Tuesday the 30th. And just, we'll assume it's the first unless we hear from you otherwise.
We can find out on Monday.
Okay,
So the meeting's adjourned.
Meeting adjourned? I guess so. Can you second that for us?
So moved.
So moved, all right.